Sword and Shield is criminally undervalued, regarded as the best era of all time, yet the box prices are still incredibly cheap. I mean, we're approaching almost 5 years old on some of these Sword and Shield boxes, and quite frankly, they are really, really cheap. I'm expecting a pretty big leg up soon, so I'm going to be talking about some of the top Sword and Shield boxes. I'm actually going to compare them to Sun and Moon, because Sun and Moon is way more expensive, yet all the sets in there, or most of the sets, are really, really bad. So let's talk about it. Now, this is a bit of a sequel to my other video where I was talking about Evolving Skies. However, instead, I'm going to be talking about the set as a whole, the booster box, top chase as a PSA 10, top chase raw. So we're going to be using some data and we're going to be talking about that. So first of all, let's just quickly start off with Lost Origin. Lost Origin's top chase is $2,100. Now, that's pretty respectable as a PSA 10. That's pretty respectable. That's definitely a lot. However, Cosmic Eclipse is the top chase is $2,100. They are the identical top chase price. Interesting. Well, Cosmic Eclipse is $4,200, the box price, and Lost Origin is $825. I think Lost Origin should be maybe like 1/3 of Cosmic Eclipse price. I don't think it'll overtake Cosmic Eclipse. Of course, the top chase isn't everything. You've got the set value as a whole. The set value for Cosmic Eclipse is 5.3, and then for Lost Origin, it's 1.5. So yes, they're tied on the top chase, but there just are more hits in Cosmic Eclipse, which is a contributing factor to it. That's why I don't think it should be more or half the price. I think it should be like 1/3 of the price, and it's just simply not. So I'm going to be talking about also why I think Sun and Moon boxes are way overvalued. They are way overvalued. They jumped up way too quickly. I think they're going to correct. They already have started to correct. I think they're going to correct more. I think we're going to see a lot of money from Sun and Moon shift into Sword and Shield. You've got to remember, the type of people who hold Sun and Moon are the type of people who hold for 5-10 years on end. And these people, they will hold until like the very tippity top, like 5 or 10K boxes, and then they'll put it into newer boxes, and their version of newer boxes is like a $1,000 box. And I think we're going to see a really big shift soon. Anyways, Fusion Strike. Fusion Strike, the top chase is 2.2K, so it's actually more as a PSA 10 than the RCS from Cosmic Eclipse. And then you look at the top chase raw. The top chase raw is $750 compared to $400. So right now, Fusion Strike is in the lead. Now, if you look at the set value, Fusion Strike is only $2,000. Meanwhile, Cosmic Eclipse is $5,300. So Cosmic Eclipse does win there. However, if we look at the best set of Sword and Shield, which is Evolving Skies, it actually blows Cosmic Eclipse way out of the water. Completely out of the water. Meaning, in my opinion, Evolving Skies, it should be like 3/4, maybe even more expensive than Cosmic Eclipse. I mean, we've seen sets like Cosmic Eclipse or Team Up be more expensive than older eras, but they're top boxes because they're just simply better boxes. So to say that Evolving Skies can be more expensive than Cosmic Eclipse is not the craziest thing out there to say, especially since we've seen it happen. Anyways, Evolving Skies, the top chase is 3.7K as a PSA 10, absolutely blows Cosmic Eclipse out the water. Then the top chase raw is 2.2K, blows Cosmic Eclipse out of the water. The set value is $7,000. That is around $2,000 more than Cosmic Eclipse. Evolving Skies is not a little bit better than Cosmic Eclipse. It is a whole lot better than Cosmic Eclipse. And this is why I say in almost every single video, Evolving Skies is underrated. Fusion Strike is underrated. Lost Origin is underrated. Just because they get love doesn't mean that they get enough of it. I think Evolving Skies should be more than Cosmic Eclipse. And if it's more than Cosmic Eclipse, I mean, dude, we're talking 4.2K booster boxes. We're talking like, that's like a $25,000 booster box case. Add the case premium on top. That's practically a 30K USD booster box case. I think that makes sense. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. We've seen it happen in the past. We've seen Team Up and Cosmic Eclipse overthrow some older boxes in other eras where they're just simply better boxes. So the demand catches up to it and just eats up the supply. Now, I think a very, very important metric to measure is the raw price of a card. Why? Because PSA 10 can differ for every set, right? The thing is, the older a set gets, the less PSA 10s there are. Even, dude, Sun and Moon was pre-COVID, so it was before that whole Logan Paul craze, right? So what I think has happened is that a lot of these damaged cards just haven't gotten 10s because it wasn't taken as serious as it is now. You've got to remember the Lovebirds was like a $50 card at one point. Now it's like, what, almost $3,000? So those cards didn't get treated as good. They weren't put in penny sleeves or top loaders as they are now. So the PSA 10 price is pretty important. But dude, if you look at the raw price, just near mint cards, Sword and Shield absolutely blows Sun and Moon out the water, but also, shouldn't Sword and Shield be cheaper because more people keep it in good condition? Well, no, because the numbers say otherwise, right? So you look at the Mimbron, it's 2.2k just raw near mint, but you look at the top chase for Cosmic Eclipse and it's literally $416 just near mint. Now, you look at the Lovebirds. Now let's compare Evolving Skies to Team Up. Let's look at the big boy, right? So the Moonbryon raw is 2.2k, Lovebirds is 2.6k, meaning that the Umbreon is only $400 less. All right. Let's look at the set value. Team Up is 7.7k and Evolving Skies is 7k. It's $700 behind Team Up. Now, you look at the top chase, and the top chase for Team Up is 8.6k as a 10, and Evolving Skies it is 3.7k as a 10. So it's about 1/3-ish, almost half of the value of the top chase from Team Up. Now, I said in my other video how I believe that the Moonbryon as a PSA 10 is criminally undervalued, and I believe, looking at some data, looking at the Rayquaza VMAX and a couple other cards in the set, I believe that the Moonbryon should be almost $6,000, around $5,800 as a PSA 10. If it does actually correct to that price, if it does jump to that price, it's going to be a really, really close contender to Team Up. Now, you might say to me, Sam, it's never going to be more expensive to Team Up, and honestly, you're kind of right. I do agree. I think that Evolving Skies could outpace Team Up. Like, maybe, see, Team Up is like, what, 7 years old, something like that? So then you could see Evolving Skies, maybe in its 7-year lifespan, being more expensive, but I don't think it'll ever actually overtake Team Up in real time, right? However, what I think will happen is I think it'll overtake Cosmic Eclipse. There's no reason why it shouldn't overtake Cosmic Eclipse. Now, if we look at like Fusion Strike and Lost Origin compared to like Unbroken Bonds and Unified Minds, I mean, they blow these sets out of the water. Fusion Strike 2.2k as a PSA 10, the top chase. Unbroken Bonds is 1.7 and Unified Minds is 1.2. That is depressing. Unified Minds is a $3,000 booster box, yet the top chase inside is almost half the price as a PSA 10 versus Fusion Strike. Absolutely criminal. Same with Lost Origin, 2.1k as a 10, Unified Minds is 1.2k as a 10. That's criminal. You look at the raw cards. Gengar VMAX is $750, the Giratina is $620, but then you compare that to the top chase in Unified Minds raw, it's just $300. Unbroken Bonds, $545. Why are these cards so weak in these sets, yet the box price is so expensive? I'll tell you what my theory is. So my theory is that a lot of new people feel like it's cool to buy older boxes. Like, they feel like it's cool to buy Cosmic Eclipse or Team Up or boxes like that, right? So I don't really know the science behind it, but a lot of new people have skipped buying Sword and Shield and have just gone to Sun and Moon. So what I think has happened is I think it's drived up the price. Also, it's a lot easier to pump up Sun and Moon boxes because there's a lot less of them. So if you buy out 20 Team Up boxes, 20 Unbroken Bonds, 20 Unified Minds, the box price is pretty much doubled for all of them, right? So it's a lot easier for it to move up. So I think that's what's happened, right? I think a lot of new people have flushed their money into Sun and Moon thinking that it's like older equals better. Well, no. People regard Sword and Shield as the best era of Pokemon. Scarlet and Violet is soon going to overtake that, but people are still quite split. You see, when Sword and Shield was fully complete and it was the newest era, and maybe like Scarlet and Violet base came out, like Paldea Evolved, people regard Sword and Shield as the best era of Pokemon. Pretty much everybody agreed on that. However, now with Scarlet and Violet, it's actually sort of split. It's like, is Sword and Shield better or is Scarlet and Violet better? So I find that very interesting. Sword and Shield's strength is holding up to this day, so there's no reason it shouldn't completely overtake these. Like, talking Fusion Strike and Lost Origin, I believe they should be not overtaking the other ones, but I think they should be like half of the price, right? Like Unified Minds, which is the third best set of Sun and Moon, it's a $3,000 booster box. I don't see why Lost Origin can't be even half of that, right? The top chase is almost double as expensive as a PSA 10, and realistically, the top chase is sort of all that matters. Of course, you got set value and like the sealed box display and all of that, but the most important metric is the top chase as a PSA 10. And quite frankly, Lost Origin just claps it completely. Then you look at Fusion Strike versus Cosmic Eclipse, and once again, Fusion Strike is just more. The top chase is just more expensive. Now, of course, the set value isn't quite there, but at the same time, when it comes to booster boxes, you're not going to pull the entire set. So the top chase is incredibly important. And quite frankly, we're just not seeing it there for Cosmic Eclipse. The top chases just aren't really holding much strength. Now, you move to Team Up versus Evolving Skies. Dude, Evolving Skies is criminally undervalued. It is a $2.4 thousand booster box versus an 8.3k booster box, so it's almost 1/4 of the price. However, the set value is, what, 10% less for Evolving Skies? The top chase is, with that, and once again, like 10% less raw. Now, PSA 10, absolutely, but once again, I do believe that the Umbreon is undervalued. It should be about $5.8 to $6,000 as a PSA 10. If it does correct that price, and if you're wondering why, make sure to watch this video. I give a very good in-depth video on why it should be. But if it corrects to that price, dude, we're gonna see Fusion Strike hit like 1,500, Lost Origin hit like, what, 1,300? We're gonna see Evolving Skies hit like, in my opinion, $4,000-$5,000. I don't see why not. I honestly don't see why Evolving Skies isn't Cosmic Eclipse price already. It just doesn't really compute for me. It's more set value. It's a higher top chase raw, a higher top chase as a PSA 10. The only thing that is different between them is Cosmic Eclipse is pretty much double the price of Evolving Skies. But in my opinion, I think Evolving Skies should just simply be more. And also, Evolving Skies is regarded as the best set of all of Pokemon. So we are comparing it to sets that are mutually agreed upon by pretty much everybody, worse sets than Evolving Skies. We are comparing the best set to worse sets, but at the same time, I'm just hoping it's going to be the same price as Cosmic Eclipse. Why can't it be more? And you might say to me, Sam, you've lost your marbles. Well, what are you talking about, buddy? All right, Burning Shadows. Fusion Strike and Burning Shadows are practically on par. That's ridiculous. There is one chase in Burning Shadows. Now, granted, that chase is quite expensive, I will say, as a PSA 10, but as raw, Fusion Strike computer. And the thing about Burning Shadows is it's a very similar situation to Paldea Evolved, where the grading is very difficult. But here's the thing, you look at X and Y boxes, there are some X and Y boxes, like I believe Breakpoint, or some X and Y boxes. I'll pull a couple on screen if I can't remember what they are, but I believe it's Breakpoint is actually cheaper than Unbroken Bonds, Cosmic Eclipse, Unified Minds, and it's cheaper than these boxes. So why is it cheaper? Well, it's cheaper because it just simply has less demand and it's not as good of a set. So why in the world is Team Up light years ahead of those? So you're telling me your response would surely be because Team Up is the best set of the era, right? Okay, cool. So then why isn't Evolving Skies light years ahead of every other Sun and Moon set except for Team Up? It just doesn't really compute, right? It doesn't make sense. You've got to remember, Sun and Moon boxes were never this incredibly overpriced. A lot of times Sun and Moon boxes would be like say Evolving Skies, right? Evolving Skies would be like 1k, maybe Unified Minds would be like 1,500 or like a little bit less. But for some reason, I think it was like March, Sun and Moon boxes just absolutely took off. Now, the difference is that Sun and Moon boxes, they didn't do like 30% or 40% returns. They did like multiple X's in returns. And I think the reason is it's just driven by hype. Like, I'm just genuinely being serious. You look at Evolving Skies, Fusion Strike, and Lost Origin, and the set speaks for itself. The top chases inside are expensive. They can hold demand. They are doing really well. It's not driven on hype. Like, of course people are excited for it, but it's not driven unnecessary. Like, have you ever looked at a booster box and you think like, dude, the top chase doesn't even justify the booster box price. Why is it that expensive? Well, Evolving Skies and like Fusion Strike, Lost Origin, they don't do that because the top chase always justifies the box price. In fact, the top chase is actually contradicting the box price because the top chase is saying like, hey, this box price should be way more. Like Giratina. How can the Giratina be 2.1k as a PSA 10, but then the box price isn't even $1,000? How can the top chase of Fusion Strike be 2.2 as a 10, then $1,000 as a booster box? Like, that's just ridiculous. That doesn't compute. Same goes for Evolving Skies. This doesn't make sense. You look at then RCS from Cosmic Eclipse, 2.1k is a 10, and then the box price is 4.2. How does that make sense? How is the top chase half of the box price as a PSA 10? Then you look at Fusion Strike, and the top chase is like 2 times the big box price. Like, do you see how Fusion Strike and Lost Origin, it just doesn't really make a whole ton of sense compared to those other sets? Then you go back to X and Y, and then you look at some booster box prices and you're thinking like, dude, how is that booster box price that expensive? Now, of course, once it gets old enough, it gets expensive. However, you look at Unbroken Bonds, you look at Unified Minds, Cosmic Eclipse, you look at them and they've overtaken the crappy sets from X and Y. Like a lot of tag team sets from Sun and Moon are more expensive than the worst sets from X and Y. But then you look at Evolving Skies, quite literally the best set of Sword and Shield, and it can't even be more expensive than Unbroken Bonds or Unified Minds. Not even talking about Team Up, not even talking about Cosmic Eclipse, it just can't be more expensive than those. It makes no sense, man. It makes absolutely no sense. I think the market is going to correct on this quite quickly. When will it happen? I have no idea, but when it does, I feel like it'll be very swift within a couple weeks. But yeah, that's going to do it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching.